Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elan Jolee. So today I'm going to be talking about something that I think I talk a lot about with my friends and my family. And I didn't even think to really bring it to my channel, but I definitely think it's important, and I'm going to be talking about budgeting, and I'm going to actually show you guys the budgeting system that I use. But before I jump into that, I really want to talk about financial freedom, financial literacy, building generational wealth, if that's something that you're into, and just kind of like all things related to how we can better ourselves with a good financial ground. A disclaimer that I want to put out there is that I'm no different than anybody else out there. There's nothing that I did that was extraordinary. It's just that the things that I did, I was very consistent with. The first thing that I did, and I would recommend anybody to do, is honestly examine your finances. Sometimes we think we know how much we're spending. We think we know exactly what's being taken out of our account and what we're spending a lot of money on. Sometimes we think we know, but when we really dive in, you may see that you've been spending about $100 a week on eating out, right? Or that every month you're spending $500 on clothes or something like that. So the first thing I say is would say is really get to understand how much are you spending versus how much are you bringing in, right? That's going to become kind of the base. And if you want to start with a strong foundation, it's going to be that. With that, I would also recommend kind of outlining your monthly expenses. So like if you're paying rent, mortgage, electricity, water bill, all of that, and then also note what is your income and see if you're living above or below your means. The second thing I would say is to research a budgeting system that works for you. There's a bunch of different budgeting apps and workbooks and different things, but making sure that it works with you. For example, for me, I'm a weekly budgeter. So I like to look at my money every single week. Every Friday is when I pay any kind of bills. So for example, let's just say a Friday is the 14th, and I don't have a bill that's due until the 16th. I'm going to pay that Friday because the 16th may be a Tuesday. So I like to kind of know what's coming out of my paycheck every single Friday. And then that way during the week, there shouldn't really be a whole lot of things that it's a surprise for me. The budgeting system that I used before, the one that I'm using now, is by the Budgeted Mom. She's on Instagram. Amazing system. That's what I use to get out of debt, or almost out of debt. I still owe on my house, so that's why I don't consider me fully out of debt. But I'm going to talk more about that later. The Budgeted Mom, I'm going to take a screenshot and add it into this video. She has a physical system that works very, very well for me. It's also a weekly budgeting system. It was only until very recently that I switched to the Dave Ramsey budgeting app because I wanted something more digital. But I will say, if somebody is just kind of starting out, that would be a very, very good place to start. So another essential point, and I think this is probably one of the most useful points that I mentioned if you want to increase your income, is to look at what you already have to get what it is that you want to get. And what I'm saying by that is that sometimes we have everything that we need to do what we need to do. I'll give an example. So I've had a private practice now for 3 years. It wasn't until 6 months ago that I decided to start hiring, because I was like, okay, I'm never gonna hire anybody. It's just gonna be me. I'm just gonna, run my business. The downfall with that was that when I didn't work, I didn't get paid, right? Which when you have a kid now for 3 months, that's kind of tricky. But after doing Bob Proctor's coaching program, I started to kind of reshape my mindset and said, okay, well, maybe I could go ahead and hire, right? So I hired my first full-time speech therapist, and then I hired a part-time, and then just this week I hired another full-time therapist to work with me. So that means there'll be 4 of us working. Another example I will give is my mom. My mom, growing up, we have a house. You know, growing up in the Bahamas, we have a home in the Bahamas. And when I was maybe about like, I can't remember, maybe like 10, my mom started building 2 apartments onto the house. So for example, like we still had our own house, but she just built an upstairs and a downstairs, 2 units. So whereas those 2 units were bringing in income, which like when you look at it, it's like, oh wow, that's so smart. Like that's what they call having your money work for you. And Bob Proctor, he talks about the 3 levels when it comes to money, and one of the top tier is essentially having your money work for you. It's like people at work, money at work. I can't remember the other one, but I'm gonna probably talk about them on another video. But essentially, my mom started to have, you know, her money work for her by creating 2 units or 2 apartments based on what she already had. So I would definitely recommend to look around and see what it is that you can do with what you already have, whether that be if you're a good writer, maybe look at Amazon self-publishing, right? Or if you're a dog person, what about like starting to walk animals or walk dogs or something like that? There's so many ways that you can increase your finances. The last thing I mentioned on that point too is like look around your house and see what you could sell. If you're a Facebook Marketplace, see what you can sell on Facebook Marketplace. You'll be very surprised. Okay, another big one that to me is very, very important is to pay off your debt and as quickly as you can. This comes back to the Dave Ramsey kind of like snowball effect. I did this maybe like 4 years ago. That's when I started, was 4 years ago. So it takes time. And what he basically said is that instead of you having a bunch of money in savings and you owe like $4,000, why not take some of that money and pay off your debt, right? Which I believe was very, very smart. And that's what I ended up doing. And it actually allowed me to build my savings and investments even faster by doing that. So I would say if you can, pay off your debts and also appropriately identify what's a good debt and what's a bad debt. For example, a bad debt, I'm trying to pinpoint nobody, but a bad debt may be you having a $10,000 credit card for Old Navy that you owe $10,000 on. That's not necessarily, that won't be a good debt. A good debt may be like somebody who has a business that's doing very, very well, but the initial investment still has them in a little bit of a hole, but the money is still kind of flowing appropriately. Or for example, my house, I consider this to be a very good debt because this is actually going to be my first investment property as I'm going to be moving to Miami in a few months. And also this home is going to be written into my will and it's going to be left to my son. So when he's 18, 19, 20, God's willing, I'm still living and all of that good stuff, he would already have a very good start if he wanted to end up selling the house or maintain it as a rental property, which this is going to be an Airbnb. The last thing that I would say that I've had to learn, and I'm sorry mom, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, this wasn't really something that I was taught growing up until very much so later in life, is that savings is great, right? It's good, it's amazing to have savings. I love a good savings, right? But the truth of the matter is savings is only going to get you so far. Because in the event that something happens drastically and you have $10,000 saved, and the event that happens, you need $10,000, all of your savings is gone. What I've learned is that you have to invest. You have to invest. You have to have some kind of investment or something that's giving you a passive income, right? Or both of those things, an investment and a passive income, or sometimes they're all kind of intertwined into one. But I've realized the importance of having that. So even now, even in this year, I'm being very proactive about creating more investments and creating more passive income. So now I'm going to show you guys my kind of like budgeting system that I use, and it's a Dave Ramsey Everydollar Counts, and we're going to just kind of go through it really quickly, and feel free to let me know what kind of budgeting system you guys use, as I think it's very kind of interesting sometimes that I hear different people's like budgeting strategies, because there's some strategies that other people use and I'm like, oh wow, like it really works for you, you know. And sometimes like I think that we can take little pointers from each other in a sense as well. So let's get to it. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys my budgeting system. This is called Everydollar Counts by Dave Ramsey. I absolutely love this app because you can use it as a monthly or as a weekly. I personally use it as a weekly. And this is also the desktop version. So it's going to look a little bit different than the app. It's basically the exact same thing. So I'm going to start at the top. And at the top is where you can like click which month you want to budget out for. So of course we're in January 2023. And the first thing you're going to notice is at the top, you're able to lay out what your income is, right? So for me personally, I just kind of lay out typically what I get from some of the insurance companies that kind of trickle in, or whether there's like a passive income or something like that. So this is typically going to be from December, during the December kind of Christmas break that trickled into January. And at the top, you can write, or you can change your name if you want to. So for example, if I wanted to, I could have changed this to, payout 2023. Just give an example. I would click it. Then I can put in what my planned amount is. So for example, in this case, this was my planned amount, and that was exactly how much I received altogether. The cool thing too is that on the desktop version, you can actually just click here and it's going to let you add in what you got and whether it was an expense or an income. So as you can see here, this amount is based on these two deposits that came in. The same thing for the rest of those. We can actually change your name. And this little thing allows you to move things up and down if you want to make something into your favorite. And you can add as much different sources of income as you want to. What I also love about this app is you see this little green line. So it basically moves kind of like at a snail's pace, showing you how much of the money that you have received. So for example, let's say I go back to here, right? And this was my plan, this was my receipt. If I was saying that I only had received $200 out of the $396.96 that I was supposed to get, this line wouldn't be all the way across. It may be like right here to show that it's not fully fulfilled just yet. As you go on, there's going to be certain headings. There's giving, there's savings, housing, transportation, food, all that good stuff, right? The same kind of vibe with the income. You can change your sources. You can change the name of it. You can go ahead and put in kind of when you want something to be at the top, or if you want it to be a fund. So for example, let's say you are saving for something like a new car. You would just click here to make this into a fund and let the app know that you're saving towards a car or something like that. So this is kind of how this looks as well. And you can also put the date, which I love. You can go ahead and put the date as to when that is going to be taken out. Now I'm actually going to switch this over. So you see how you see spent and you see planned? I'm going to click on that. This would be telling me what is remaining. So there's the planned, remaining, and there is how much you spent. So if I didn't spend all of the money once again that I had planned, it would tell me I have this amount of money remaining, if that makes sense. So I'm going to click back over here. I'm going to continue to show down. So you see how this one, the line doesn't go all the way across, it only goes halfway, or we have about a quarter left because I planned for $200 for my business expenses this month. And so far, this is what I've spent. It really allows you to kind of stay on track. I also use Ali. I don't know how many of you guys use Ali. I actually got this from she's like a financial advisor that I'd spoken to maybe a year ago, and she put me on to using Ali. So every week, religiously, I have $230 transferred over into Ali, which is a high yield savings account. And I would definitely recommend that. I'm actually going to show you guys a little screenshot of what they show you in the app. Basically, how essentially this is how much I'll be able to save if I continue doing what I'm doing. So I think that's a really, really cool app. We have housing, mortgage, water, internet, all of that. You can put the date. So some of these stuff Jarvis and I share, or we kind of mash them together. So that's what you're seeing as well. Subscriptions, daycare, Spotify. Like I said, you can add as many as you like. Keep going down. Now, let me show you, for example, with restaurants, I budget out 60, but I so far already spent 75, which I want to make sure that I keep that at a certain amount. But what I can then go ahead and do is I can look and see, okay, what did I plan for that I can move? Like my self-care money, I haven't touched that yet. I'm going to be touching that probably next week to go get my hair done or shaped up. So I can maybe adjust that and transfer some of this money over into hair. You feel me? Or like threading. I get my eyebrows threaded and stuff like that. And so far I've only used $17 when it comes to my budget. Same thing going down with everything else. I save for my business IRS expenses every year or the year before. So I always put a certain amount aside every single month for that. And then if we go back up to the top and we go on to the, depending on how you're looking at the left side or the right side, I'm going to click here and it's going to show me, which I need to see sometimes, how much I have planned, how much I spent, and how much I have remaining. So this is telling me that I still have this amount of money left that I can spend or whatever it may be. So if at the end of the month, which just as a reminder, this is kind of a $0 balance, meaning that every dollar should have a place. Every single dollar should have a place. Nothing should be floating around. This is only here because, like I said, what I have remaining based on what I planned. So nothing should be out of place. Right now, I'm seeing that I still have $64.31 left to budget because I just got that refunded from a dress that I bought. So that's why that's telling me that. Also, the cool thing is you can actually connect all of your accounts to this. That way you can transfer over. I'm not going to click on that account part because that be showing too much of my money business now. I don't do all that. But when you connect your accounts, you can just click transactions. And this is going to allow you to literally just move anything over. You see that? You can move it and put it into anyone. So like this right here was me transferring. So I have multiple accounts. For example, I think I have like 7 different accounts. One for my business, one for my personal, one for this, one for that, whatever the case is. So sometimes I will transfer over from different accounts, and then I can just kind of slide that over. So I think that's the bulk of it. And then it'll show you what you already tracked. It'll show you what you deleted and what's pending. These little features on the side is really, really cool. Some of these I haven't really played with too much because I don't necessarily need it, but this gives you a breakdown of also how to use the system. And they have this really cool feature called risk of overspending. Like they tell you like, hey, hold up, this is an area that you typically overspend on. Their goals section, I like this section about it as well because you get to like basically create a financial roadmap as to where you want to go. So this is something that I would probably do with my business. If any of you guys are in the baby step, I did this with, I did a snowball effect maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I was paying off my debt. So right now I only owe, as I mentioned, I may have mentioned this in the video already, I only owe on my house, which I consider that a good debt because that's going to be a part of an investment. But if anybody is trying to get out of debt in the moment, this would be the part that you would use. So yeah, guys, I think that's really about it. I love this app. I can't speak more highly of it. I budget every Friday and it's been the most beneficial thing for me. So yeah, I am sending you guys an abundance of love, positivity, get that money up, get everything looking right. Until next time. Oh yeah. Okay. I don't think people realize the measures that you sometimes have to go through to record. I had to use my luggage to like for it to hold my standing. You know, one day I'm gonna go ahead and get a fancy camera and stuff like that. But for right now, I just use my good old phone because I'm gonna use what I have. It's giving quad. It's giving.
Right there on top of the moon, we could sit and do nothing. I wish we were bold to just fly away. I don't wanna care. It's